Last semester, Doane student Richard Carter was struck by a car while walking home from a football game.
The driver took off running onto Doane campus, leaving the car behind and Richard's football team as his only lifeline.
Coach Matt Franzen had just returned from a junior varsity football game in Hastings. While the team finished unloading the bus, Coach Franzen made a quick stop by his office.
I was literally in my car driving home, and one of our assistant coaches called and said, hey, we just got a call, and he said Richard had just been hit by a car over on Doane Drive.
Coach Franzen quickly turned around, but didn't let himself get too worried.
So I assumed when I got that call that, you know, if you get hit by a car on Doane Drive, the car's probably going 5 miles an hour. I figured it was probably no big deal.
Meanwhile, Richard's teammates began hearing rumors about an accident. Kevin Wynn, who played defense with Richard, started getting distressed phone calls.
Later that night, I got a text from a person in my fraternity, and he was just like, "Are you okay?" And I had no idea what he was talking about. And he was like, "Yeah, I just heard some football player just got hit by a car."
When they realized Richard had been hit, they tried to get a hold of him.
I texted him, and I was like, "Are you okay?" And I saw him, and I was like, "Man, he looks pretty banged up."
Coach Franzen arrived at a more frightening scene than he expected.
The police had already showed up, and a few of our players and a couple students were there on the scene.
It was immediately apparent that Richard would not be returning to the field anytime soon. This was a harsh reality for his teammate Kevin.
I was just like, I felt really bad just because I know he worked really hard over the off season to get to, start playing, going through winter conditioning and the summer workouts, and then having this unfortunate event happen. It's kind of I just felt really bad for him.
Despite the gruesome scene, Coach Franzen held out hope for Richard's recovery.
You know, I guess the good news was that he was conscious and he was moving and he was talking. So my first thought was he's okay.
Richard's teammates rallied with Coach Franzen.
I think all of us kind of came together and just kind of showed support for Richard.
All the while, Franzen realized that the missing driver may still be dangerous, especially around his wounded player.
What happened with somebody literally just hit and ran? So is that a threat? You know, not an immediate concern because you're more worried about Richard and his well-being, but then in the back of your mind, you start to think a little bit about, okay, well, what happens next?
Fortunately, the driver did not return to the scene and was apprehended a few weeks later, a short span of time compared to the recovery and therapy facing Richard.
And in the end, Coach Franzen was able to make the call. Will Richard be returning to the team?
He will. Yeah, he'll be. It's been a bit of a process. He wasn't able to be. He was not able to participate fully in the off-season workouts, and he didn't participate in spring football. But by the time fall starts, he should be fully cleared and healthy. And the good news is he was able to appeal to the NAIA, the national office, and they gave that year of eligibility back.
As unlucky as Richard was to get hit, he is equally lucky to have been able to make a full recovery and be headed back to the gridiron. For Doane Student Media, I'm Tyler Johnson.
And I'm Andrew DeCamp.